6.
5, 4. Okay, well, I guess we already hit it. Welcome, everybody, to the Couch Sports Talk podcast. I am Goozy Juice. With me is Young E, the winner. And then we also have the young philanthropist himself, bringing philosophy to every single podcast that we do.
What up, what up?
Not only through the sports world, but also just to help you out in your daily life. That's what we're here to do, okay? So essentially what we do in this podcast is we just tell it how it is, how we believe things are in the sports world, and we're watching it the same way that you guys are doing it on the fucking couch. So let's get into it. Our first thing that we're going to talk about today is the NBA bubble and the food that they are providing to the NBA players and potentially the other amenities that will boost up the morale for all of the players that have to live in this shitty palace for the next potential 2 months. So I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's been a lot of pictures, and even J.R. Smith got kicked off alive because he kept talking shit on it. But some of the meals might not be up to par to what some millionaires would expect to get, correct? A lot of what seems to be just quick food maybe that you would find in, I wouldn't say a school cafeteria, but maybe a private school cafeteria. And they just seem to have an assortment of snacks. And I don't know. I think they're overreacting a little bit. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for the NBA to adjust and Disney World to adjust to what they really need there to make the players happy. It's going to be different for everybody, right? And I'm sure that some of the rookies are more than happy with what they're getting. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on what you believe. What is your opinion on their food and the amenities that have come with it? I mean, we even seen that they had a party set up, but only Dwight Howard showed up. So what do you think? What do you guys think?
Shout out to Dwight Howard, man. I love that he was the only one to show up. That seems pretty on brand for him. As far as the food goes, man, I think it's a bit of an overreaction from the players, but I guess you got to put it in context that these guys are millionaires. They probably have personalized chefs at their home making them home-cooked meals. But the other thing here, too, is that the NBA is only giving them shitty food for a few days. And then after this quarantine period is over, after they arrive in Orlando, and I believe it's 3 to 7 days afterwards, they open up the whole complex and everybody gets to tour it. They get to go and they're going to have actual chefs there making them meals. And they should be able to actually select stuff off of a menu. But what I thought was really funny was Joel Embiid's tweet saying, "This is going to be me if I keep eating this food." And it was a picture of him from when he was like 16 in Africa. It just got me thinking that maybe guys that struggle with weight like Zion or Joel Embiid are actually going to come out really thin or really in shape for the bubble play, which I think is an interesting little tidbit. But yeah, what do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know about the food changing up at first, so I was pretty disappointed in the league. But knowing that they're going through the quarantine period and the proper protocols to keep the players safe, I think it's the right move. But yeah, I think the other leagues are kind of watching and learning and probably understanding that, in the hub cities, they probably need to have that quarantine period for the chefs and stuff before the players come, because it'd just make more sense and, probably make the players a lot happier to be there. But yeah, I would definitely say that's the biggest benefit of it, is just the other leagues are going to be able to, watch and learn from what they do. But I definitely think they're doing a good job.
And I wanted to also ask, what do you guys think? Do you think that the now hitting 15,000 cases a day in Florida is going to have any impact on this NBA bubble?
I mean, it definitely makes me skeptical that they're going to go through and finish it. The biggest thing for me is the fact that Disney World is actually opening to the public. I don't see why that's smart for anybody. But, I think the NBA is really invested in getting to the 70-game regular season game mark. So I think it's probably likely that we see those 8 regular season games played, because it has to do with their TV deals and the revenue for the league, that they hit that 70-game mark. So I could see a reality where we hit that and then there might be a tiny outbreak and then they shut things down. But yeah, overall, I'm skeptical on this NBA season finishing.
And we're going to see some women getting snuck in, bro. I'm telling you, it's like we were talking about last week. All it takes is one person.
Stephen A. Smith was ahead of his time.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with Disney World opening. I just thought overall, I mean, that's a terrible move. With you having the NBA starting there, I just don't know what they're thinking. And then, I've been reading stories that Florida is now like the epicenter of the world for COVID cases.
Period. Yeah. The world.
And, they're still not really taking any precautions or doing anything to prevent the spread in the state of Florida. So, yeah, I don't know about it happening. Same goes with baseball. I know they wanted to use the spring training facilities, but it's going to backfire quick. Florida's probably not the place to be having your sports league right now.
Right.
Yeah, I was completely under the impression that Disney World was going to be closed for this entire thing. I really thought until maybe the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe open up back in 2021. So it really is crazy to me. And I've already seen like videos going viral of people saying they were sick at Disney World. They're not even able to clean up after every ride. And imagine from like a business standpoint how hard it would be to just be able to have enough staff to make sure every single ride after every single person gets up from that seat is sanitized.
Right.
It's unreal. But that's not a part of the sports world, so we'll take a step back from that. But it is a bit of a worry. And like you said, I definitely see a couple games getting played, maybe those first 8. But if a player that's a star, it could even be just like a number 2 or a number 3 on a team. It really just messes up everything. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Young E, you there?
I think we might have lost him. My screen got all messed up as well. Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties. Give us a second here.
Technical difficulties. I mean, it shows that he's still on the call, so I don't know. We'll see. It's pretty interesting, though, with NBA bubble. I could imagine it would. All right, apologies for the technical difficulties, but we are back. Okay, just gave me a weird message up at the top. But anyway, so speaking of Florida and the complete garbage cans that seem to follow the state or live in the state. Sorry, Floridans. I'm not going to hold back on my hate for Florida because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, so I have a lot of gripes with the damn state. Okay? Anyways, speaking of shit in Florida, let's talk about the AFC South, and we start bottom to top like we did the last 2 weeks. So we're starting with the Jaguars. Like I said, shit. I really think that they're going to be going. They're trying as hard as they can for Trevor Lawrence. They might get him, but knowing the Jaguars, they'll probably fuck that up too. Anyways, they have the one bright spot on their entire team is one Gardner Minshew. He is electric. He is sexy. He brings attention. The only thing worth talking about with the Jaguars is Gardner Minshew. So I got to give credit where credit is due. I like the man a lot. I don't think he's superstar talent or even will be a superstar talent, but he could be a very, very good player in this league. And one notable addition that they did bring to the team was not that many players because it's hard when you're trying to tank, in my opinion. But they did bring on Jay Gruden, who just got fired for being shit. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of coaches that go from coordinator roles to coaching roles and don't work out, they can sometimes do a lot better going back into the coordinator role. So we'll see with that. And other than that, I have no other bright spots to really say because I would say Leonard Fournette, but I know he doesn't want to be there. And I just really would have enjoyed to see the Jaguars try a little bit harder this offseason, maybe go for someone like Cam Newton so the fucking Patriots don't have to have him. But I just have to live in pain. So the world just keeps throwing bullshit at me. So I'll let you guys go ahead. What do you guys think of the Jaguars?
I have absolutely nothing to contribute or say about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they are the worst team in the division. I think obviously they just had a restructuring of their front office and coaching staff, so that's obviously a recipe for a rebuilding team. Like you said, I think Minshew is one of the lone bright spots on that team, but I don't even know if he's the quarterback of the future there. So really, this team smells and looks like 4-12 waiting to happen. And it looks like another rebuilding year, and maybe hopefully they get a shot at Trevor Lawrence. But that's all I have to say about them.
So I think y'all are sleeping on the Jaguars big time.
No.
I mean,
Who?
I'm not saying they're good by any means, and they've definitely just redone the
How can I
whole
sleep
front
on something
office and
that's bad,
everything.
then?
Okay, but they are moving in the right direction. They had a really good draft this year. 2 first-round picks, really improved the defense. They got C.J. Henderson, who was the consensus best cornerback in the draft, and then they got Kalavian Chasen, outside linebacker, going to match up on the opposite side of Josh Allen, who had a fantastic year last year. I don't know about Gardner Minshew. Okay. I don't know about Gardner Minshew. I mean, I've seen him put up some stats. I've seen him have some good games. We'll see what Gardner Minshew we get. I love the guy, though. Super out there. You know, gotta love him. Everything he does. But outside of those people, I don't think they have much talent. Leonard Fournette will probably be out of there before the trade deadline. I could see him dropping down, but, you know, I'll talk about them a little bit later in my hot takes once we get towards the end.
Okay.
One last note on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Go ahead.
Don't draft Leonard Fournette in fantasy. Just don't.
Don't do it.
Take my word for it. I've done it.
We want the fantasy sleeper for the Jaguars.
Let's hear it, bro.
2nd round pick, receiver out of Colorado. I don't know how to say his name. It's like, I don't know. It's a weird name, but I think his last name is like Chenault or something like that. It's very unique, but he's pretty good. I could see him being, you know, a productive in that offense, being that they have literally nobody else on their team to provide any sort of offensive attack at all. But
Laviska Shenault.
Laviska, see, a difficult name, but
yeah.
You know, he's a stud. He was good at Colorado, and you know, I don't really want to choose anybody from the Jaguars because I don't think anybody's going to produce. But if I had to, in a league with like 6 receivers and, you know, a really deep team, he'd be the one.
Poor receiving core too, so he should stand out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. If you had to, you know, get some PPE, maybe PPR. Yeah. Oh my goodness, PPE. We get that.
Well, you need some PPE too with Corona, so make sure you got PPE out there.
Especially them, bro. Especially them.
Oh yeah, in Jacksonville.
One thing I will say about their draft, and I know some of the analysts were talking about this, and it's probably one of the biggest gripes that I have with NFL teams that make trades with their stars, is that they will trade. So what they did, right, is they traded Jalen Ramsey, their corner, superstar, and then used one of their first-round picks to then draft another corner and replace him.
Right.
So I understand that you need to do that because now you have a hole, but really, how do you improve the team? No. So that thing, it really frustrates me because I see the Dolphins do this stuff a lot, and I see a lot of bad teams do this a lot.
Yeah.
So I understand it was a hole, and they needed to fill it. But at the same time, come on, man. I don't know.
I mean, you also got to think, though, Ramsey didn't want to be there. The whole last season and a half he was there, he was saying, get me out of here. Just like Ngakoue is right now, he's out. Even if they keep him this year on that franchise tag, he's not going to play, and Ramsey was at that point, too, where he just
Why would you want to be there? Make the team fucking better, and maybe players will want to stay.
I mean, they had that 1 year. They had that 1 year.
They had that 1 year, and then they almost beat Blake Bortles to a fucking contract extension, so I don't want to hear it. Because they did absolutely nothing to improve their team. Instead, they just said, we like being mediocre.
When you get the 20th, 25th pick because you went to the AFC Championship or whatever, divisional round, whatever it was, I don't even remember at this point.
It was AFC Championship
game.
But, yeah, AFC Championship, you're getting like the 28th pick, bro. you're not going to be able to get a decent quarterback at that point. I mean, most likely, unless it's a really deep quarterback draft, and I don't think it was that year. So they had to sign Bortles. They had nothing else to do, and then they tried to
Nope.
get Nick Foles last season, and it just didn't
They
work
could have
out.
went
They had to get
and
that guy
got
out of there.
Kirk Cousins, bro.
And that would have improved their team? You really think so?
He
Really
is better
think
than
so?
Blake Bortles. Yes, I really do believe they would have been a better
Okay,
team with
he's
Kirk
better
Cousins
than
over
Blake
Blake Bortles.
Bortles. But the team around, like, it, what it was, too, is the team around Blake Bortles was also shit. They've never had any sort of receivers. Their best receiver for the last 5 years has been Marquise Lee.
Okay, he's top 5. Let's not sleep.
Stop it.
Top 5 bust.
Wow. But yeah, deadass.
Top 5 on the Jaguars depth chart.
Yeah, for real.
Moral of the story when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars is there's not much to fucking talk about. So, we'll move on to
Move them to London.
I wouldn't say more interesting or, yeah, I wouldn't even say they're that much more interesting, but there is a couple interesting storylines with the next team, and that is the Indianapolis Colts, and we have a brand new quarterback at the helm for them, and that is 50-year-old Phillip Rivers. I'm really interested to see what he can bring to the table because I thought he came up. Yes, last year he showed up to the party with no plate. He didn't bring no dish. Okay, he brought no food to the table. He was out there with the biggest noodle arm that I've probably seen since I was working with young E here, watching the kids throw the football. Okay, that's just how bad it was last season. Let's go the thumbs up. Okay, but for real, I think the Colts got a good team. They've been solid. It was really sad to me to see, Luck having to retire because I thought they had something good going. They were seriously going to be contenders last year. They've improved their offensive line. That defense is nasty, led by Darius Leonard. But I want to ask you guys, do you believe what they have done this last offseason and then the team that they have built in the previous offseasons, do they have enough now to compete in this division?
Yes. Yeah, this is actually my sleeper team for this division. I think the whole is obviously quarterback. It really is going to depend on what Phillip Rivers is able to do. And also, I don't really understand why they're trying to move past Jacoby Brissett so quickly. He had a really good start last year. He had a really bad injury problems. He tried to play through it. He probably shouldn't have. So I think if this team can unify and get some consistency at quarterback, I think they can be in that mix 10-6, especially with 7 playoff teams now. I think they can definitely snag a spot there. Other than that, I agree with everything you said. They have a solid roster on offense and on defense. And I would just like to say, Colts fans, why did you boo Andrew Luck? Why did you do that? What are you thinking? Stop it. Just ridiculous. But that's all I got to say. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, I agree. I think it entirely depends on Phillip Rivers. Overall, I think this division is pretty weak.
Yeah.
I think, there's 3 teams competing, and any of them could go anywhere from 6-10 to 10-6. Like, I could really see any 3 of the Titans, Texans, or the Colts going 6-10, or I could see all 3 of them going 10-6. It's just how it's going to play out. But from what I've seen in Phillip Rivers in his almost 15-year career, I think close to 15-year career, he has that gene that just is super anti-clutch. Come in a fourth quarter, it's 23-17. There's 4 minutes left. Frank Reich decides to throw the ball on a 3rd and 8, and somehow Phillip Rivers throws a pick 6. It happens, and it's happened his whole career. And it's just
I'm going to need you to stop it right now. Phillip Rivers played a whole AFC championship game with a torn ACL. So I don't want to hear you questioning his ability to come back.
How long ago was that?
It doesn't matter. He's messed it up so many times. It really reminds me of like a worse Brett Favre. You know how Favre really would just recklessly throw that shit across the field and just say, fuck it, let's go try to hit a home run every play? Phillip Rivers has done that, and the thing that's the problem with him now is he doesn't have the arm to do those home run big plays anymore. So he's just throwing
This
shit.
is all true.
just to throw
This is
it.
all true. But when you have 10 kids, bro, you're not scared of shit. You have that reckless confidence, bro. You're shooting no matter what. Shooters gotta
Now, but I will say, outside of Phillip Rivers, they have done all the right moves to make this team good.
Yes.
Every single right move to make this team good. Frank Reich is a fantastic coach. They have the best
coach in the
offensive
division.
line. They have the best offensive line in the league. Their defense is great. They had no first round pick this year and got so much value in the second round. They brought in Jonathan Taylor, who they had Marlon Mack, and he's been good, but he's had his injury problems. And you know, when you get a running back like that who came out of a low round, and you know, who knows how long they're going to be able to keep that up. So then you take Jonathan Taylor, who's proven himself at Wisconsin and was my top back in the draft. You get him at 45, you know, that makes a big difference for the team. And then they got Michael Pittman too, receiver out of USC, and that's a big boy. That's a big target for Phillip Rivers to have, and he's going to need that with his lack of arm strength. And it's a perfect complement to T.Y. Hilton as well. Hopefully he can stay healthy this year. One other notable draft pick they had, which kind of surprised me, but I think nobody really expected him to slip this far, so they had to make the move when they did. They drafted Jacob Eason out of Washington, the quarterback. I know most people had him in the second, third round, but they got him down in the fourth round. I think it's just a good backup for them if Rivers gets hurt. Did they keep Brissett? They let go of Brissett, right? Completely?
No, they have Brissett.
No, they have Brissett. Yeah.
And so, we can't forget a trade that they made as well.
DeForest Buckner is huge for them.
Yeah.
Huge. I'm biased because I'm a 49ers fan, but I really think DeForest Buckner is a top 10 player in this league, regardless of position. I hated to see him go, but I don't know if you could justify paying him the amount he got with the Colts. But regardless of that, that defense is going to be absolutely stacked now. So watch out for DeForest Buckner and watch out for the Colts for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, they're moving in the right direction. They've done the good things to make them good, and they have a backup plan if Rivers doesn't work out or if he gets hurt. And, you know, another thing we have to think about, too, is most teams this year are going to be carrying 3 quarterbacks. Because if one of your quarterbacks gets COVID, you got to be able to still have one to back up if somebody gets injured. Yeah. And I've actually been seeing a lot about that because with the Ravens, you know, they're having a battle for that third spot. So, you know, that's a big move taking Jacob Eason there, and you know, maybe he can develop into something that they take on once Rivers goes next year, or they can do the same with Brissett.
And I will say, being a little dramatic when it comes to Rivers, I've always liked him. He's just let me down so many times, so I have a little bit of hate towards him in my heart. But you know, like I've been saying with this whole pandemic and how there's potentially going to be no preseason games, how there's going to be a shortened training camp and all that, I think having a veteran quarterback is going to be very beneficial.
Yes.
And then also, let's just say someone like, you know, Rivers does get hurt, and then you can have someone like Brissett come in. That's big too. Especially when you're going to be, because he's been on the team for a while now, and you're going to be playing against teams that, I mean, in this division, it seems to be that we're having quarterbacks come back, except for Rivers, as he's going to be the only new one. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think the Colts are very good. And
I honestly wouldn't rule out Brissett winning the starting job in training camp if he comes out on fire. But the other thing to say, too, I think Phillip Rivers, you got to remember, Los Angeles Chargers, he's already used to playing in stadiums with no fans. So he's got that one leg up on the competition.
See, there you go, bro. You're making me just want to buy the Colts even more and more.
There you go.
Man, you got the veteran in the building that already knows how not to play with fans, man.
Yep. He's already there.
Crazy. All right, I guess young E just left the picture, but we'll go ahead and move on down to the next team. And that is a team that I actually cannot kind of understand why he left, because they upset his team in the playoffs. They did a tremendous run that nobody expected. They beat the Patriots, ended the biggest dynasty that probably any sports team has ever had. And they took down what seemed to be the next big dynasty in the Ravens. I don't know if we can say dynasty just yet, but definitely the next big team.
Right.
The superstar in Lamar Jackson, and my gosh, that Ravens defense is always good.
Yes.
So they went into Baltimore and they whooped cheeks. They went into New England, whooped cheeks. They went into Kansas City and they whooped cheeks just for a little bit, but they'd actually played very well against the Chiefs. I was very surprised by it. And I'm just going to say it. I believe the Titans are going to be the division champs this year. They got Derrick Henry coming back. I think he has maybe 1 or 2 more elite years left, just because that's what it's like for being a running back. And, of course, he's just a giant, giant man. Everybody tries to hit him, especially down low. It's going to be hard for him to stay healthy for a lot of years, but I think he's got a good couple of years left. And then, of course, they are led by one of the sexiest QBs in the league, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ryan Tannehill. He is mediocre on his worst days and then just really good on his good days. He's not going to lose you games, but he's probably not going to win them for you either. But the thing is that Titans team is very good, and he's probably the perfect quarterback to have in that situation. As a Dolphins fan, I like Ryan Tannehill. I wouldn't say I love him for obvious reasons. But he's a good guy. He's a good leader. He's very tough. And, he's going to be loyal to that team, and he's going to do everything he can to help them win. So I think that gives them a huge advantage in this division, with Rivers being new, Jaguars not even worth being talking about, and then the Texans, right, who we're going to get into, but I believe they're in a decline. And I just think the Titans as a whole, especially with the pandemic, they seem to be having a lot of pieces come back, and they have a very good coach that seems to have a good handle on things. I think this team has a huge potential to blow up, and they could be a team that I could see surprise and come up and be like the number 2 seed or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think of the Titans in this upcoming season?
Well, I think the Titans are very well coached. I think they have a good roster. Obviously, Derrick Henry's a monster, and he's proven that. I think with his longevity, he might actually have a better chance of lasting a little bit longer, just because even though he's huge, he doesn't really seek contact like a lot of running backs do. He actually tends to be not elusive, but he tends to avoid contact, play it smart. He actually reminds me a lot of Frank Gore in terms of his how he approaches the game. Not his size, obviously, he dwarfs Frank Gore, but just in the way he approaches the game. So I actually am a big fan of Derrick Henry. I think he's going to do well. I would say I think Tannehill's going to hold him back. I would give them a big buyer beware here. I know they locked up Tannehill on a very team-friendly deal, so that's good. I'm glad they did that, but I would put Tannehill in that tier of quarterbacks where you see guys like Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, maybe like Andy Dalton now, where it's like they can be competent game managers, but I don't think they're going to go in and win you playoff games when it really matters. And they also have the potential to blow up in your face. So I would say big buyer beware on the Titans. I think they could go 12-4, and I also think they can go 7-9. So it really just depends on their schedule, how their season goes, how their injuries hold up. One guy I'm really excited to see progress more is A.J. Brown. I think if they expand the passing game more, he could be a really big threat for them. Overall, I love the team. I love the way they're coached. And I think they could win the division, but I also think they could come in 3rd place. So it really just depends on the quarterback to me.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think, they got a good roster. Mike Vrabel's a fantastic coach, but like I said, with, any team in this division other than maybe the Jaguars, I could see them going anywhere between 6-10 and, 10-6, 11-5. I hope the Titans go 6-10. I'm still salty at them for last year. My heart still hurts from that game. Their defense shut us down. They got a really solid defense. They had late picks this year in the draft, but they did what they needed to do. They went out and got offensive line. They got a corner to help out on the opposite side of Malcolm Butler. So, they made the moves that they needed to make. So, we'll see. I'm not the biggest believer in Ryan Tannehill, but, they found a way to win with him not being all that great or, not being bad, not turning the ball over, doing what he needs to do, very much like the Bills did with Tyrod Taylor. But, I don't know if they're going to be able to get past or even close to where they were last year.
Okay. I respect that. It'll be very interesting to see what they can do this next year, especially with the Colts potentially going to be better. I think they're going to sweep the Jags. That's going to move us on to probably our next team with the Texans.
Oh, boy.
My background says it all. Bill O'Brien. I'm not even going to say anything yet. I'll let you guys go ahead first. But my question to you guys is, will Bill O'Brien fuck this up?
I mean, you talk about Bill O'Brien, man. He's, to quote Young Thug, man, he's 7 days. He's weak. He sucks. He's horrible. I don't know how you, as an owner, could experience the Bill O'Brien experience for years and years and years and say, you know what? Let's give him more responsibility. Let's make him the GM. Let's give him the keys to this entire franchise. I'm so over this. Deshaun Watson is one of the greatest erasers in football because every single year the Texans somehow either win the division or they get the wild card. And I'm sick of it. All right? I want the Texans to get what they deserve for empowering this man on your background screen. He's horrible. Horrible. And I hope
He's
Kyler
not
Murray...
that bad of a coach.
Relativity is a big thing here. Relatively speaking, he's pretty bad. All right? I hope Kyler Murray throws 30 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins this year. I really do. And I'm sick of the Texans. They can kick rocks. I hope they go 5-11. I really do. That's all I got to say.
I want 4-12.
I mean, this is probably, I just hate this team, and I hate Bill O'Brien. He's such an idiot. I mean, I just want to look at this draft again, because I couldn't believe it was real when it happened. He traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and a second-round pick, and they swapped fourth. And now at this point, I think Arizona's going to have the later fourth-round pick than the Texans are. So basically, they moved back in the fourth round, and they got David Johnson, who's not been good for 2 years. I mean, really,
he's only been good once. He's only been good for 1 year. It's not like it's sustained success before that.
And he was really good that year, and all respect to him.
Yeah, props.
But, I mean, he just hasn't sustained it, and his injury problems have declined. And the Cardinals kind of showed me last year that they can have success with a lot of running backs in their backfield. Like, look at what they did with Kenyon Drake those last 6 games of the season. Dude was getting like 200 yards a game. I mean, and we all know Kenyon Drake isn't all that. Like, Jordan, especially as a Dolphins fan, you know, Kenyon Drake is good.
Potential.
He's good and he's got potential, but he should not be out here rushing for 200 yards a game and 2 touchdowns. Like, he's not that good. That's like,
hey, Miami Miracle, bro. That's all I got to say.
Shout out to the Dolphins for consistently supplying the league with average to good running backs. Every year the Dolphins are putting out some other running back that's going to end up on some other team and put up together a few good fantasy football performances.
Makes me sick.
Shout out to the Dolphins for that, but continue, Ethan.
I just think they've made all the wrong moves. They have no place to where they're looking to get better in the next 2 years. Their cap space is low. They need to sign Watson to a deal, which I'm going to get to in a second. They have traded away their first-round picks for Laramie Tunsil, who's really good, but they just gave him the largest offensive line deal ever, which broke my heart because now the Ravens have to give Ronnie Stanley a deal that's bigger than that, which is going to take away our Lamar money and just hurt the team. But because of Bill O'Brien's stupidity, now the rest of the league has to match that. And it's not like the cap space is going up. So now we're going to get this, you know, huge price on offensive line, and then, you know, the league's going to be very O-line and quarterback dominant. But honestly, with their lack of draft haul in the next couple years and just Bill O'Brien being shit and the owner refusing to get rid of him after all this time and still leaving him in control of GM after this just awful, awful year, I don't even know if they can make 6-10. I mean, they're just really. I think we're gonna see Watson turn down a deal and walk away from the Texans when it comes to that point and find himself a new home. And one place I could see it going, maybe foreseeing a couple years down the road, Brady moves on and Watson goes to the Bucks and they continue their winning habits there.
Nope.
But I don't know if the Bucks can make them two good front office moves in a row. You know, they're not a franchise that does that. So,
do you think that Bill O'Brien wouldn't be in the position that he's in if they weren't up 24-0?
I think they got big-headed last year. I don't think they deserved to where they were with the talent on their team. I think they kind of just skated by and got lucky with playing teams on down weeks where they saw the Patriots in probably the worst Patriots form we've seen in a very, very long time. I think any team in the playoffs could have seen the Patriots in the first round and won, including the Josh McCown-led Eagles. They just looked really bad in that first round, so
that was the Titans.
The Patriots really weren't that good last year after their start. After they went 8-0 or whatever, they weren't that good. Period.
They played the Bills.
Okay.
Well, there goes that.
All right, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't want to give Phil the props for Josh Allen. But still, I think they got big-headed last year, and I think they got a lot further than they should have with Bill O'Brien being a coach, and then the team they have some good talent there. I just don't think now with DeAndre Hopkins gone, they're going to be able to produce what they need to produce. And they got 4 receivers, but all of them have averaged like 8 games a year the last 4 years. So I guess maybe you can get 8 games out of 3 of them, and that's good because they can play different 8 games. But we'll see.
Hopkins took so much attention away from the other ones too to make them shine in their roles. So that's another thing.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think they're probably down there with the Jaguars in my book right now. The only thing that's saving them is Deshaun, and Deshaun can carry them to maybe 8-8, but I think the highest we're going to see them is 8-8, and then I will get back to the Texans and hot takes today.
So I was going to go in on the Texans so bad. I wanted to comment on how Bill O'Brien's head just looks like Mr. Potato Head, but I'm not. Okay, we're going to stop because after listening to you guys, I have realized that nothing would make me happier than if the Texans did very well this year. Do you imagine? Can you imagine? I would apologize to Bill O'Brien for everything I've said, besides the Mr. Potato Head comment. What if this man's a genius? We don't know yet. I'm just saying, I'm being devil's advocate right now, and I'm rooting for something that we'll probably never see, because that would make me laugh. If they really came out, Deshaun Watson, MVP, Will Fuller is completely healthy the entire season, puts up top 5 wide receiver stats, David Johnson comes back and he looks like he's 3 years younger, J.J. Watt comes in and throws in another 20 sacks in a season, I would be juiced. I would be hyped up because then Bill O'Brien and that chubby little face can look right in the mirror and say that he actually did something and that he shut the haters up. And that would make me laugh. So I'll leave it at that. I would love for that to happen. It would be an amazing story. It would make so many people mad.
I wish you would stop it.
I wish there was a dislike button on the thing. If there was a thumbs down, it'd be perfect for this. I don't even want to get into that. That's just
nothing would make me laugh harder than seeing 2021 in February, Bill O'Brien holding up that Lombardi trophy.
That would be pretty funny. I'm gonna give it to you.
I almost want to get off the podcast now.
All right.
That's an awful thought.
Get down to the bullshit. We're going to talk about matchups now. Now, you guys can go ahead. I know last week I was kind of throwing out the matchups, but you guys can go ahead and do that too. I didn't write too in-depth the matchups with this one, so you guys could give some matchups yourself. But the first one I did want to talk about is who would you rather have leading your team right now, Gardner Minshew or Phillip Rivers?
I mean, are we talking about for the next 3 years, or are we talking about just for this 1 year?
Let's go with 2 years because Rivers is on a 2 years contract, right? No, he's on a 1 year, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's on a 1 year deal.
Okay, so just for this 1 year.
I gotta go with Phillip Rivers. I gotta go with Phillip Rivers, man. Minshew had a few good moments. He had several good moments, to be fair. He had a little sustained stretch, but I don't trust him over what I've seen from Phillip Rivers over his entire career. I got to go with Phillip Rivers on this one. Just
does it matter what team that you have? Would your answer change?
Well, of course it does. Yeah.
My question was if we give Minshew Frank Reich and then the offense that they've built
there, that's what I'm saying.
Like, at that point, I'm probably going to take Gardner Minshew for the potential that he can come out and play really, really well. If he busts, if I have that whole Colts team behind me, if Gardner Minshew busts, good, I got 2 other quarterbacks behind him.
Hey, yo.
I'm willing to take the risk when I've seen him throw some games last year where he went, 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns. I know he had like 1 or 2 games like that last year. And if he's got that in him, put a good team around him, maybe he can get it done.
I'm not saying I disagree. Like, Minshew has potential. I'm not going to lie to you. He had some moments last year, but overall, just in a vacuum, I'm going to take the guy who had a 15-plus year career of sustained success. I'm going to go with him.
I respect that. I would say if I do have the Colts, I probably want Rivers. But if my team is the Jaguars, I want Minshew. You're going to want someone who's electric, who's going to bring life to the lifeless stands. I feel like Gardner Minshew, even though there's nobody in the stands, you're going to be able to feel some type of energy coming from there. There's just going to be this guy, he just brings something to a city that deserves nothing. And that's really interesting to me.
Why you got to do the people of Jacksonville like that?
I mean, there was no fans there last year. Let's be real.
If anybody listening is from Jacksonville, I hope they take the team to London. I hope they take the team to London, bro.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that earlier, but I decided not to make it worse for them. But, yeah, they're probably going to be leaving, bro.
The owner's been bugging, so it looks like it's going to happen. But, anyway. All right.
So next one.
Minshew Rivers.
Would you rather have
who?
That's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not sure here.
Defense would you rather have in the division?
I mean, who and who? Or just all 4?
All 4. My pick is going to be the Titans.
Again, are we at a point, are we talking about this year in specific? Are we talking about
if you're
going into the next years? If I'm walking into this season and I'm the GM I got a 3-year contract as a GM, is that what you're saying to me?
And you can pick the entire defense for your team. Which defense are you picking?
Colts. Easy. Stop it. I can see the disagreement on your faces, but you're bugging. Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner. Boom. That's all I got to say.
Y'all ready to be pissed?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm taking the Jags.
Oh,
Here's what I have to say. Young talent, big potential. Young talent, big potential. Okay? CJ Henderson, Kalavian Chasen, 2 really big colleges, should translate to the NFL fairly quick. Josh Allen, only going to get better, and he was almost Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, as it was, right? And then you have Myles Jack at middle linebacker. He's not a bad middle linebacker. He's one of the better ones in the league. I understand outside of those 4 guys, they don't have a lot, but I don't think they have a bad defense, and if you give me another year, another draft to improve on that defense, it's going to be solid in a year. I really think next year they're going to have the best defense in the division. I mean, if you could get Ngakoue signed and to play one way or another, that's a top 3 D end in the league.
Okay, fair enough. That's good reasoning. I just still think you're wrong. I think if you're not going to pick the Titans, which I could understand, they don't have, huge star power on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wasn't going to pick them, I would definitely pick the Colts. But you picking the Jags,
I think
makes me angry in so many ways that I can't express it. So
the Colts
all I got to do is point to the picture of young philanthropist right here. That's how I feel about what you just said.
You got to be kidding me. What did he say?
You didn't even hear out my reasoning. Okay, the Colts have they really do.
Pissed.
If I was picking the Colts, if I was picking for 1 year, I'm picking the Colts. But if I'm looking into next year and the year after, I'm taking the Jags because they got 2 really good players in the first round this year to fill out that defense. They have Josh Allen, Miles Jack, solid defense, and then if they found a way to sign Yannick Ngakoue, that's a top 3 D end in the league. That's a monstrous front line right there with him, Josh Allen, and Kalavian Chasen. I mean, you can just see that being a problem right there. So I think they have, maybe not this year, they're not the best defense. I think the Colts are probably the best defense this year. But I think next year, the Jags are definitely going to be taking over that number 1 spot.
So if you had to pick for this year, you're saying you would pick the Colts?
If I had to pick for just the 1 year, I would say the Colts, but I think the Jaguars have potential to, even by the end of the year, have the best defense in the division. But the offense is really bad, so the numbers are going to be inflated. We can look back on this at the end of the year. Their probably points per game is going to be inflated, but we're also going to have to look at time of possession in comparison to that because the offense is not good.
I mean, how good is Miles Jack anymore? He seems like a guy to me who had potential at the start, had a little good run, and now he's tapering off.
He's above average.
Yeah,
he's not good. He's above average, though. So that's all I'll say for him, and that's good enough for me, coming from the middle linebacker position because it's pretty thin right now across the league. There's not a lot of very good middle linebackers.
All right, I have one more matchup, and then I'll let you guys go ahead, and that is Laramie Tunsil versus Taylor Lewan. Who would you rather have as your left tackle?
I'm going to have to go with Laramie Tunsil. I think, if you take the contract into consideration, then sure, I would say Lewan, but Taylor Lewan just makes himself a target, man. Defensive ends wake up in the morning and they're like, I cannot wait to hit this dude in the mouth. Laramie Tunsil, low-key, very successful career, great tackle, and he smokes big gas. What's not to love? What's not to love, man? Let's support Laramie Tunsil. Let's go.
With Taylor Lewan, I understand he does put a target on his back, but I guarantee you he also wakes up that morning knowing he's going to fuck people up, and he doesn't care if someone's coming after him because he's going to be going after them first. I love who he is as a football player. He will go. Fair. He's one of those guys that would do a J.J. Watt shit and headbutt you with no fucking helmet on. He's that fucking crazy. And you need someone like that on your team, especially when you have someone who isn't he 6'8", bro? He's literally walking onto the field as a giant, and he defends every single player on that team. He brings a special type of energy. I love Taylor Lewan. I want that guy. And I will say, bro, I messed with Laramie Tunsil. I have as a Dolphins fan. It was upsetting to see him get traded. But at the same time, I don't know, man, if he was really 2 first rounds and a second worth, bro. Okay? He's very good. I also don't think I think that contract was too big like you guys are talking about.
It was a good trade. Yeah.
He's very good. And at times he can be great. But his consistency with me, it bothers me. And he did lead the league this year in penalties. Okay? That shit made me mad. So
yeah, I was going to bring that up. So my answer is Quentin Nelson. Point blank, period. I'm passing on both of these guys for the best offensive lineman.
He's so much better than both of those, though, bro. You can't do that.
I'm passing on them both. Nah, my only why I was thumbs down in you, Jordan, was because I understand Taylor Luan is a savage, but you cannot tell me Laramie Tunsil is not also a savage. He had that gas mask on. He was ripping that shit, bro. Let's be real right here. He was ripping that. He was like, I'm gonna be a top 5 pick. I don't care. That's savage, bro. He was ripping that shit. All right. So I gotta give respect to Laramie Tunsil. But yes, all things considered, I probably would take Taylor Luan as well. Contract, and then, the fact that Laramie Tunsil led the league last year in false start penalties, and it was by like 8. I don't want that on my team, bro.
Bro, the gas mask be hitting him.
No, dead ass. Sober up, bro.
Bro,
I know it. I know the NFL's not tripping about it anymore, but sober up. You can't hear the snap. Come on.
Bro, you know that dude's hitting big gas too with Bill O'Brien as his coach, bro. You got to.
If you were sober in that environment, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I mean, let's just look at the dude behind him in your background, bro. Like, he's obviously not sober. Look at that smile. That's not a sober smile. I'm behind Bill O'Brien, and I gotta be fucked up because I'm unhappy with my life. Like, come on now.
All right, next matchup. Who's on more drugs, Bill O'Brien or Adam Gase?
Adam Gase.
Adam Gase.
Adam Gase. Have you seen this dude in post-game interviews? Come on.
Oh, we gotta pull up a picture of Adam Gase right now. Come on now.
Bro, I love when Stephen A does the eyes.
It's so bad, bro.
All right, one of you guys give a matchup.
All right, this was just gonna be my matchup, and it's a matchup of all matchups. Who do you think's gonna win the division, and what do you think their record's gonna be?
I already said from the get-go that Titans are going to win this division. I just think that especially with the pandemic and them not moving around too many pieces, I think that's going to be a huge benefit to them. And like I said, Tannehill may not be great, but he's going to do a pretty good job of managing that team. I mean, he led the Dolphins on a very good season with that dude as his head coach. And then he left and actually took over Marcus Mariota, and he took his team to the AFC Championship. He didn't necessarily take them there, but he also didn't really prevent them from getting there. He didn't hurt them in too many ways. And like I said before many times, that having a veteran quarterback is going to be very beneficial to this season for any team that's going to have one. And I think Ryan Tannehill, with the way he game manages, that's going to be very important for them. And Derrick Henry, just expect him to come out hot. I seen him run up them hills, bro, during quarantine. He's putting in work. He looks even bigger. And I just think, like I said, I think the Titans have huge potential to be one of those, like, they kind of have the potential in my mind to be like the Jaguars that we saw with Blake Bortles, but having a better quarterback at the helm. Not that much better, but you can't really get much worse than Blake Bortles. So I could see them having good potential to be a team like that. And like I said, they could go from being like a number 2 seed to being, I don't know, potentially a wild card. I don't know. It's going to be a tough division, like you guys have been saying, but I think the Titans are going to win it.
I have the Colts. The Colts are my sleeper team in this division. I think, point blank period, they have the best roster in this division. They don't have the best quarterback, but I think Phillip Rivers or Jacoby Brissett, if either of them are healthy, I think they have what it takes to go 11-5, to go 12-4, and win the division. I really think Buckner is going to take that defense up to a second level that they weren't able to hit before. I think, like Ethan said, Jonathan Taylor is going to add a different dimension to that backfield and that offense. I think Phillip Rivers or Jacoby Brissett, either or, they're going to rediscover the passing game. I think T.Y. Hilton is due for a breakout year, or at least a better year than what he's had previously. And I think this team's going to take it. I think they're just better than the Titans, point blank period.
Can I also say before I let you speak, Young E, one last thing. One reason why I'm also picking the Titans is because I think that they have, as an organization, they're very underrated. They do always seem to be in the playoffs one way or another, and they always compete in those games. And they usually actually end up winning one game. I don't know if you remember Marcus Mariota catching his own touchdown pass and
Oh my
winning against
goodness.
the Chiefs. Like, that was, they may not do it pretty, but they win games. And that's an organization that I can get behind.
For me, I agree with Phil. I think last year, even with the Titans, we saw how much a team can dominate without necessarily relying on the passing game too much. I think, you have Phillip Rivers, you have a veteran presence there. I think, as much as I love Mike Vrabel, I think Frank Reich is the best coach in the division. Fantastic coach. I think they have a little bit better defense for sure. I think Darius Leonard is an absolute game changer. He's probably the best middle linebacker in the league. And then, yeah, like Phil said, adding Jonathan Taylor brings a whole new dimension to that offense, which was already, a good offense as is. And then you add Michael Pittman in that mix, who's a really solid player. A lot of people had him going in the first two, flipped to the second, big pickup for them. So I think they have a lot of potential, and even if Rivers doesn't work out, I still think, they could switch up at game 6 if they're 2-4 and still have the potential to pull a 10-6 season.
All right. That's with that. Philanthropist, do you have a matchup that you'd like to give us? A little something?
We're going to go a deep dive on this one. I'm going to go a matchup. Who is the better former starting but now backup running back in the division? Are you going with Marlon Mack or are you going with Carlos Hyde? Now, these are two running backs.
Carlos Hyde's no longer in the division.
Oh, where did he go?
I think he signed with the Chiefs.
Damn. Well, okay, former AFC South running backs.
All right. Go ahead, Goose.
Huh? I didn't know. Wait, say that again?
Marlon Mack.
Hyde or Marlon Mack?
Who am I picking?
Yes.
I'm going to pick Marlon Mack. I didn't watch too many Colts games last year, but I know he was one of the few bright spots last year, and he had some pretty big games. I really can't remember if I had him in fantasy or not. I want to say that I did, but I also feel like I didn't. My memory is very bad.
Yeah, Lord knows you don't pay attention in fantasy.
Yeah, so I think I did have him, and I think he did well for me some weeks. So, yeah, I mess with him. I think Carlos Hyde's cool. Brings good backup energy, but I think some games Marlon Mack can step up just a little bit bigger. Could step up a little bit higher than Carlos Hyde.
I'm a 100% go with Marlon Mack. He's been pretty sustained good the last 2 years. Carlos Hyde kind of had the one good year with the Niners and then has been consistently cut and can't really keep a job ever since he left the Niners. So I think Marlon Mack is just solid. I was actually kind of surprised at them taking Jonathan Taylor when they had Marlon Mack. And then they had Nyheim Hines last year, who also had a decent year, catching passes out of the backfield. But I think, once they got to that position, it was like, how are we going to pass on this guy? How are we going to let this guy go to another team in the division, a potential, Texans or, Jags, where it can make a difference for those teams, especially in the years going forward? I think they kind of just decided it'd probably be best for them to take him, even if it was going to take a little bit away from Marlon Mack. I think they're one of the better teams at sharing carries. They always have been. They've ran a 2 running back thing for a couple years now, even when Marlon Mack was coming up. So I definitely think, they're going to figure it out. But yeah, Marlon Mack's the one.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree with both of you as well. Carlos Hyde, I think he's one of those guys who is better in fantasy than he is in real life. Because fantasy football, he definitely puts up numbers. But Marlon Mack, I had him, I think, 2 years ago in fantasy, so I was watching a lot of Colts games at the time. And definitely multi-dimensional running back. He's a threat in the passing game. He's a good runner. So I would go with him as well.
All right. I like that. I like that we can talk about players that people don't necessarily talk about. And
all right, real quick before we move on, I need 2 minutes. I gotta go get my computer charger.
All right. So we'll go ahead and just discuss something. and that something will be a quick, extremely loaded question for you, philanthropist.
Let's hear it, bro.
Does Kawhi's game managing diminish his legacy in any way when you start, like, let's say he wins a chip this year? Is that something that you have to consider when you compare him to other greats? Do the season stats really matter?
Yes, but not that much. Really, I think with the load managing thing, it's going to take time to see how that develops. Because, I mean, bottom line, he was hurt last year in the playoffs, and he played through it. Pretty much from the time they played the Sixers, he played hurt all the way through. I think he's just more injury prone than other people are. And he had a bum knee, had a bum leg, you could tell, and he still played through it. So I would lean towards no. But if it starts to get to the point where it affects the Clippers, like, because you kind of saw that with the Clippers this year, they didn't really know how to play together at full strength because, bottom line, Paul George and Kawhi just had not played that much together. Like, one would be on, the other would have an off night, even when they were both back healthy. So I'm not a huge fan of load managing, at least to the extent that the Clippers have been doing it. Like, I think it does have a place in modern basketball, but overall, I think your team needs to get into a rhythm. And with the Clippers, I think it just got taken to an extreme. Like, I think there's a stat I read where the whole entire Clippers roster, or at least like who we would identify, like Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, PG, Kawhi, had only played together for a total of 10 games at the time that the season was stopped. And at that point, it's detrimental to your team, you know? Like, I can understand giving guys a day off when it's back-to-backs. I think back-to-backs are stupid. I don't think there should be back-to-backs in professional basketball. But to only play 10 games together at full strength, that's just silly. I mean, meanwhile, the Lakers have played almost every game together, and they're firing off win after win. They're the number one seed. They've already had it comfortably locked up. So I think that's going to rear its ugly head. But honestly, no. I mean, for better or for worse, Kawhi's going to be defined by what he does in the postseason. And at this point, if he were to get another championship, we're going to have to start talking about him as a top 10 player of all time. You know, he's going to force his way into that conversation. And I think he's honestly going to leapfrog Kevin Durant if he does that. So that's just something to keep in mind as we go forward.
And it's interesting, too, because he's kind of doing the opposite of what people consider someone like a James Harden or a Russell Westbrook, right? They play extremely well during the regular season.
Right.
And I think Russell Westbrook gets a little bit too much hate in the playoffs. I think he still plays pretty well. But you know what I mean. So it'll be pretty interesting. I did really enjoy seeing Kawhi play last year, even when he's injured. Like, he was just so determined. And to see, like, after he wins that chip and he's walking off like he can barely even walk, like, it was just so interesting. Like, he really put 100% effort, and I love the way he plays. He plays.
Yeah, he didn't cry about it either. He didn't make a big deal out of it. He just played. He just went out and got a championship. And obviously he caught some breaks. You know, well, I'm not going to take that away from the Warriors. I think they would have won at full strength. I think they were unbeatable at full strength, to be honest with you. But the Raptors went out, Kawhi went out, and they won it, you know, straight up and down. And Kawhi is he's cemented himself as a legend. I think he really is approaching top 15, top 20, top 10, maybe even status. So, I'm high on Kawhi. SDSU legend. Represent.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do. And, you know, maybe this whole break that they had can benefit the Clippers because they didn't play that often together. So I hope that they were working out together at least a little bit during this whole thing.
Yeah.
So now that Young E is back, let's go ahead and get into our next topic. And this is going to be one that he is going to lead because, unfortunately, I was not able to watch the fights last night. But we're going to be talking about the first week that we are having Fight Island. And I will say I was very disappointed that the fight was actually not on the beach. I think that would have been dope as fuck. Okay, I'm gonna just say that. Like, that would have been so. I think more people would be intrigued if it was on the beach. It would look like a real life fighting video game. Like, that would be sick. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you took from the night? And was it as boring as people said it was?
So first off, I'll just give a little background. This is our first time really talking about UFC, but I've been getting into it, the past 5 years or so. Did a little MMA in high school myself, just, trying to learn and, kind of just interested in it after watching it on TV for so long. So, I'm not the most knowledgeable in the sport, but I keep up on it. I watch almost every week. I pay for ESPN Plus, so I take advantage of it. I've watched some of the old fights, but, I was really excited with UFC 251 coming up this week. It's the first big event since COVID happened and kind of started up. And, it was our first Fight Island fight, which was really cool. It wasn't out on the beach. I don't think it ever will be. I don't know, how sustainable that is. And, the air is not all that clean. And then you have to think about weather, and that plays effect too. Like, I know last night in the Usman Masvidal fight, one of them was complaining about it being really slippery because of the humidity compared to where they're normally fighting in like Vegas, where there isn't much humidity. It's just a lot of dry heat. So when you're inside, you're not feeling that. So I definitely think if they were outside, it'd make a big difference on the fights. The first thing I kind of want to talk about with 251 was Max Holloway and Andrei Volkanovski. It was a good fight. It was competitive, but I mean, and I'm with a lot of other people. I don't know what the judges were thinking. I don't know if they were watching the same fight as we were watching. And to me, it really opens up a problem, or, I mean, what I consider to be a problem. Maybe other people don't, who are more avid into the sport. But, ever since I've started watching, we get these fights where, champions will make it last 5 rounds. And, the fight is close, and statistically it's, going towards the challenger, but it's close enough to where usually they'll give that one round that's really close, that's on the border. They'll give it to the champion just because he's the champion, and then, the champion holds the belt. And I think we've seen that for a long time in the UFC. I don't know if it's normalcy in MMA, but it really does bother me because I just think whoever you are, it doesn't matter. If you won the fight, you won the fight. Period. And Max Holloway won the fight. It was, competitive, but I don't really think it was even close. I could have even given Max Holloway 4 rounds because he dominated in the first round. It could have been a 10-8, but I don't know. He also had 2 knockdowns compared to Volkanovski's 0. And I think that should make a big, big difference on the scorecards as well. But, it is what it is. It sucks for Max Holloway, but I do definitely think we will probably see that fight again, in 6 months or so. And then Jose Aldo last night with Petr Yan. Petr Yan's a beast. I think he deserved the belt for sure. I was very disappointed not to see my man Aljamain Sterling out there. I think he deserved the title fight more than anybody else when Henry Cejudo stepped down, because he fought in that same night that Cejudo stepped down and absolutely dominated his opponent. He's up there in the rankings for that division. I think he deserved it. But they gave it to Aldo, who's an absolute legend in the sport, Hall of Famer to be. No disrespect, but the fight was rough. It was rough to watch. The last 3-4 minutes of the fight probably shouldn't have happened. Yan was just on top the whole time, just beating the back of his head. The last 2 minutes, Aldo was just bleeding all over the place. And, the ref just wasn't stopping it. And, we could hear the ref, say, hey, you need to make a move, or hey, you need to fight back, or I'm going to call the fight. And he didn't call the fight. And, he would keep trying to move, but he really couldn't do it because he was just getting his ass beat and just manhandled completely. I mean, I'm just being full real. Like, Aldo, once we got to the 3rd round in that fight, Aldo didn't stand a chance. He was just getting absolutely dominated. And, I mean, you could even hear the announcers for the final 3 minutes of the fight just saying, call it, call it, call it, call it. Because, I mean, at that point, he's just taking unnecessary CTE and brain damage that he didn't need to take. And, The fight should have just been called.
He drank at least 5 CTE smoothies.
Oh, 100%.
He was the Jamba Juice.
And we've seen this be a problem in the UFC before, just where, they're just not calling the fight. And I think it's worse now because you're obviously going to have guys that have the heart that they're not going to tap out in that situation. No matter what, they're going to get knocked before they tap. But at the same time, refs need to recognize that and at some point understand there's 3 minutes left in this fight. There's no way this guy is coming back to win this fight. We just got to let it end. And that's got to be that. And I think especially now when there's no fans in there and you can clearly hear the announcers repeatedly saying, call the fight, call the fight, call the fight, and you're not doing it, I think Dana White is going to have to do something. I think that ref, I don't think it was Herb Dean. I think it was the other guy that was there last night.
It was not Herb Dean, bro. Herb Dean's a legend. It couldn't have been him.
I mean, he's had his fair share of late calls, but
Can we give the refs the benefit of the doubt, though? Because I usually see them do that with people of Jose Aldo's caliber, where they know that they're going to fight until they really can't fight anymore.
See, and I agree to that, but again, to a point, it's the 4th round. It's a 4-0 fight. Like, by far, it could probably be a 5-0 fight because one round is a 10-8. And
so it's the context.
The dude is just getting fucking whopped on. And, like, it's just like, how much brain damage are you going to let this guy take before it's just enough? Because it was like to the point where I didn't even want to look at the TV anymore because he wasn't fighting back. I mean, he was just laying on the ground getting beat, and it was just
was ugly.
Called the fight. But it is what it is. I hope next week the fights, they have a different ref there because that was inexcusable. I don't think we'll see Aldo again because that's going to be a lot to recover from. Finally, I'll finish up with the main event fight. I know a lot of people online, which I see this a lot with certain fights, just called it boring and not what they wanted to watch. And, he was just laying on top of him and, this and that. I think that is people that are watching, UFC to see somebody get knocked out or choked out or just see somebody get their ass beat. They're not actually there for the actual mixed martial arts. And last night, the main event was a mixed martial arts showing. It was a showing of how to win a fight soundly and doing it the right way. I mean, he won the fight 50-45, 50-45, 49-46. That's a pretty clean sweep right there. That's not competitive. And the other thing that people really weren't considering, which I really noticed last night, is Masvidal was burnt by the end of the first round. As you'd imagine, he dropped 20 pounds in a week for this fight. Usman had spent all this time preparing for somebody else, so he was pretty burnt by the second round too. So yeah, the majority of the rest of the fight was spent on the cage, on the wall, not really a lot of punches being thrown. And the other thing was too is Usman's got a lot more to his game. Masvidal is very much a striker, a power striker, gonna knock you out on your feet. And he kind of probably didn't want to give himself up to that too often. So he spent a lot of the time doing what he was good at, which is wrestling and, just having that control throughout the fight. So, yes, I think if you were in it for the knockout, if you were in it for the big punch or whatever, that fight was probably pretty boring. There was some better fights earlier in the night for you. But if you're watching it for MMA, it was a solid fight to watch for sure.
Definitely. Kind of goes along the lines we were talking about earlier of, there's just some teams that just in sports, right? They'll play the game maybe not as exciting as you would like them to, but they play it the right way. And the same thing can be, said for what was going on last night. And nothing is wrong with that. You fight to win, and you got to do whatever it takes to do that, right? So we're going to move on, and the next thing we're going to be talking about is the NFL rule changes with this pandemic going on. And I got to be honest with you, they're taking away jersey swaps, and that makes absolutely no sense to me. Like I told you guys earlier, it is like putting the condom on after you bust. Why the hell are you going to have all of these dudes touching on each other, sweating on each other, coughing on each other, spitting on each other, literally on top of each other, but you're not going to allow them to, after the game, go and shake hands, not going to give a chance for... I love to watch when the Patriots lose, and you got to watch Bill Belichick walk to the other coach and pay his respects. You can see how much it pains him. And I'm not going to be able to see that this season. That shit makes me mad. So I want to know, what do you guys think about no jersey swaps? And I know, Ethan, you're going to be very upset at the fact that you don't get to see Lamar hand out 50 jerseys after the game. Okay? So what do you think?
Go ahead, Phil.
It's just lame. There's really not much to say about it. The NFL, I just guess they really have to flex their muscles and control their players in ways that are just stupid and juvenile in a way. It's a pointless revoking of the players' freedom to do what they want after the game. And like you said, it's just so stupid. I mean, if someone has corona on the field, it's gonna be exchanged during the game already. You're not gonna get it doing a jersey swap where you wouldn't have otherwise got it. So it's just pointless. It takes away the fun. It's just another stupid way for Goodell and the league to ruin the relationship with the players and the Players Association. So I think it's just silly. It's avoidable, and it shouldn't be there. Point blank, period. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to be surprised if it lasts the season. A lot of the NFLPA and players have expressed their discontent with it, and I just think, what are we really gaining from this? Let's be real. Like you said, if somebody has corona, it's going to be transmitted through the game no matter what. It really doesn't matter. Whether you're on the bench, in the field, you're around everybody the entire game. There's no way they're going to keep 55 players or, potentially expanded rosters this year because of COVID, separated 6 feet from each other and all the coaches on the sidelines. It's never going to happen. And then you have to play a full contact sport. So, I just think it was a dumb rule. I don't understand why they did it. Some of the other rules they put in with it are okay, but I don't get this one. It makes no sense.
I will say this rule probably would benefit Lamar Jackson a lot because he does hand out 50 jerseys after every game. And if you watch the way he plays, he's probably the only player that can really social distance on the field. He makes grown men fall flat on their face. And as you see in that background, he jumps over them as well. So that's something to think about. Maybe they did it for Lamar Jackson. Do you guys see the NFL season, though, coming at all? Do you see this going without hiccups?
I think it depends on the NBA. I think every other major sports league has their eyes on the NBA right now, and if the NBA bubble is successful, then I'm very optimistic that the other leagues will find a way, and if not, I think there's a big chance we don't see sports until 2022, honestly.
I think there's more margin for error, too, with how many players are on an NFL team. So I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for them.
More margin for error, but also more potential for an outbreak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to depend a little bit on the NBA, but I also think it's going to depend on how things progress through training camp and as players return to facilities and, if cases happen and if there's an outbreak on a team, like, let's say, for example, just because they're on your background, the Texans have an outbreak and 15 players get sick, I think right then and there they'll call the season.
Yeah.
Or, what they've also done, which I don't know if you guys really paid attention to the schedules this year, but they backloaded a lot of the divisional games this year. So they're within the last 10 games. Almost all divisional games are within the last 10 games of the season. So that if they need to cancel 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season, they can do that, and it's not going to play too big of an effect on the playoffs and the players and, how the league year is going to play out.
Yeah, I mess with that. And I will say one thing that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and it kind of in my eyes, is very similar to the discussion with schools reopening, is that everybody's talking about how potentially the kids can get sick, but no one's talking about the teachers. And it's the same way with the players, right? Everybody's talking about the players getting sick, but we're not talking about the coaches. Mm-hmm. We know that there's a lot of big coaches out there, bro. Okay, and if they get sick, they're gonna be high risk, and there's a lot of older coaches, so it's scary. So it's gonna be scary from that standpoint, and I think if there is an outbreak with one team, it'll be really hard to prevent some of the higher risk coaches from getting it, and that'll be a sad day if any tragedy happens because of that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Can I ask a side note question on this? How many glizzies do you think Andy Reid could devour in one sitting?
6. I'm giving him a pretty low 6.
I'm going to say 10, but after the Super Bowl, he went home and chomped down on 20.
Probably. Probably.
I think he's definitely he's a teenage level glizzy gobbler. I think he's hitting 13 minimum.
Wow. I respect that. All right. And this will be another Young E-led topic. We have some NHL announcements. Give it to us, and give it to us hard.
Fantastic news this week. I was overjoyed to see they ratified the CBA, agreed to an extension for the next 4 years. I know the NHL is a little bit more small market than the other leagues, but I do think a lot of the other leagues need to look at what the NHL is doing with their player relations and take note, because there was no problems coming to a CBA agreement, no problems coming to a return to play agreement. It was just, let's get it done, let's get back on the ice, and let's play. I've been very impressed with the way they've handled everything. I think the most impressive thing, and the thing that makes me the most excited about it, is the 2 hub cities that they chose. Toronto and Edmonton. They are staying the fuck out of the U.S. because they understand that we are fucking idiots. So all those teams are going to move up there in 2 weeks after training camp's over, quarantine for a week or 2, everybody's good. We're going to have a season, no bumps, nothing. I don't think they even have to worry. They don't even have a bubble like the NBA is doing, where the players are having to stay in one spot. I think he's still here. I think they're still letting the players have their freedom of going out and stuff if they need to go out and get food or whatever. And then I do think both Toronto and Edmonton are in the playoffs. But I don't see it being too big of an issue. You're not going to have fans anyway. So, aside from the ice just being their home ice, which all the ices are the same, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But yes, I was very impressed with everything they're doing. I'm looking forward to August 1st and the game starting. Pulling for the Coyotes to make their first playoff appearance in 6 years, I think it is. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, really impressed with hockey. I think, if anybody can learn anything, baseball could learn that maybe they should go run the league in Canada this year. There's fields up there still, so they could do it.
I wonder how Canadians feel about all of these Americans coming into their country.
Well, I mean, you have to think hockey is maybe 20% American, if that.
They're coming from the States, though, right?
I mean, not necessarily. Like, a lot of the guys that were living in Canada, like, I think everybody's back at their home base this week for training camp. But I know a lot of, like, the Canadian guys spent all this time that they've been off in Canada and not spending time in the U.S. And then, same for the people that are living out of the country as well that might be from, Russia or, that kind of area. I don't think anybody from Russia went back home because I don't think they're allowed to leave yet. But I know a lot of players went and stayed up in Canada and trained up there and just, as anybody can see with any sort of intelligence, Canada's probably in a better spot politically and leadership-wise than the U.S. is right now. So I think players kind of acknowledge that and, went up there to keep their own safety and keep their families safe. So I definitely think it's going to benefit everybody. I agree. It might raise some eyes to some Canadians that the players are coming back from the States, but I know also they're quarantining all the players, I think, for at least 10 days. So, I think it's going to work out. I think if any league is going to work out, it's going to be the NHL. I'm hopeful for all the other leagues, but if all else fails, I do think we'll have hockey, which might be a good thing for the league to get some more popularity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And all of you American hockey players, stay celibate, bro, for 10 days. Just do it.
Go to
all right,
Canada.
let's protect these Canadians. They're nothing but nice people, okay?
Exactly.
All right, let's jump in to what might be potentially my favorite topic of this entire show, and that is the NBA awards. And I know this year has been very close in some of the awards. So I'm really interested to see what you guys think, and it's been very, very hotly debated every day on sports shows, especially MVP. I don't know if that's just because of the star power that LeBron James has, or if people really do believe it's that close. I think it is that close. I know what LeBron was doing before everything shut down was insane. But before we get into that, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to start with Defensive Player of the Year, and because MVP, we could jump into that a little later. That's going to be a larger topic. So Defensive Player of the Year, right now, the top three that I hear people discussing over and over again, and if you look at the numbers, right, it's going to be the top three is Anthony Davis, Giannis, and Rudy Gobert. I don't want to talk about Rudy Gobert because he got everybody sick. So he did a terrible job defensively fighting against coronavirus. So I don't think he deserves the award. Then you have AD and Giannis. I will tell you who I want to win the award and who I think will win the award. I want Giannis to win the award because I also think that he is going to win MVP, and I think that would be absolutely incredible to see that in history because it's only happened two other times with Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan. They're the only two players who have done it in the same season, and I know for a fact, as we are seeing in this season, that Giannis has the potential to do that literally almost every single year. So I would love to see it just happen one time. And I do think Giannis deserves Defensive Player of the Year. He is just wrecks teams. And sometimes it's by himself. There's nowhere on the court that he can't cover. But I think who will win it is Anthony Davis. And I think this is because if Giannis wins MVP, I think it'll be very hard for them to give him Defensive Player of the Year as well. So Anthony Davis has brought, if I read correctly from what I had seen earlier, the Lakers were 21st or 22nd in points per game last season, and now they're all the way up to 7th because of his addition. And when you see him play, especially in that last stretch, he was an absolute monster. And as you expected him to be, we're talking about Anthony Davis here. So I would say both of them deserve it. I think Anthony Davis will win it, but I do want Giannis to win it. What do you got, Philanthropist?
I'm going with Giannis on this one. I think Giannis brings more versatility on the defensive end. And looking at the numbers, Giannis is first in the league in defensive win shares. Anthony Davis is second. And Giannis is also first in the league in defensive rating. So with everything else he brings to the table and the fact that he can reliably guard the other team's wing players or the other team's bigs, I think he deserved it. I think he's earned Defensive Player of the Year. No disrespect to AD, but I think actually my opinion is that Giannis should win Defensive Player of the Year, but not MVP, but we'll get to that one a little later.
Okay. Where's Mr. Winner?
All right. Sorry, I got a new family member I'm dealing with today. I got a pet fish today, so dealing with that a little bit here. But Defensive Player of the Year, I'm not super into NBA. I haven't watched a bunch of games. I know a lot of people are But from what I've read, I have AD as my defensive player of the year. I think he's brought a lot to the Lakers. I think he kind of balances out LeBron, who maybe at this point career can't play as good a defense as he used to. I'm not going to say he's playing bad defense, but he's definitely not playing good defense. So I think it's his impact to the team has been greater than I think maybe Giannis on the defensive side. But I could see it going either way. Just personally, I think for me, I'd be picking AD this year.
All right. Mess with that. And let's go ahead and jump into the next one, which is I know we have been hotly debating this as the season's gone on, and that's Rookie of the Year. Zion and Ja Morant. It's really just a two-man race at this point. My Rookie of the Year is going to be Zion. Every single time he walks onto the court, he walks on saying fee, fi, fo, fum, even though he's still not the tallest man on the court, but he acts like it. He plays like it. This man's going to be a star. I've been saying in the last shows that I think he's going to be the next face of the league. As soon as LeBron retires, this guy is just something special. I know he hasn't played as many games as Ja has, so it's kind of hard to give it to him straight away, but he's just been nothing short of dominant. And he's literally 3 years younger than me, and he's making grown men just look foolish. And he's really, I know the Pelicans have a bunch of new players, but I think when Zion's on the court, they're just elevated to a whole new level. And I know you can say the same about the Grizzlies. Ja being there has changed the team greatly. It is very neck and neck. I like both of them a lot, but I just think with how dominant Zion has been, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. But it's one of those things too where I kind of need to see how these 8 games go. So like it's that close to me. So if Zion really comes out and he's hot, I don't even know if it's going to matter how hot Ja's going to come out. If Zion's coming out just a little bit hotter, you got to give it to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, it comes down to the fact that at the end of the day, Zion's just better than Ja. Overall, he's had better statistics so far. He's played better. He looks better. I think he just is better. But at the end of the day, Ja Morant has played the whole season, and he's played very well. And he is a budding star in his own right. So for me, it's currently a toss-up. And I believe what happens in the next 8 games is actually positioned perfectly to decide Rookie of the Year. You know, the Grizzlies have the 8th spot. The Pelicans will be gunning for that. And I think we should just let them play it out. And whoever comes up on top deserves Rookie of the Year.
All right.
Yeah. As of right now, I definitely have Ja as my Rookie of the Year. Like you said, he played a full season. He played a full season of good basketball. I know Zion played really well in those games he came back. Who really knows what he could have done in a full season? He could have way outperformed him, or he could have matched the numbers and kind of balanced out and slowed down a little bit, you know. But, you know, I think when it comes to these final 8 games, I think they're definitely going to be important in the race, and I think it's really going to come down to that, and I think it very well should. I think, you know, if the Grizzlies come out and they beat out the Pelicans straight up for this 8 seed, then, you know, Ja deserves it. And I think if the Pelicans come out and they beat out the Grizzlies for the 8 seed, Zion deserves it. It simply comes down to that for me because I know they have pretty similar teams around them. They both have good teams around them, but I think, you know, it's definitely going to come down to that for me, who's going to win the Rookie of the Year. But right now, I'm going to go with Ja.
Respect that. And I got to say, too, man, when Ja is wearing that throwback Grizzlies jersey, bro.
So good. So good.
It makes it real hard not to give him the award just off of that. Like, it's just so fresh.
Make that the default jerseys, please. They're too good. They need to be in the rotation. Come on.
100%.
Yeah, for real.
Man.
Next one. So we're going to go ahead and just do MVP last, since that'll be the thing that we probably talk about the most. But Coach of the Year, I got Nick Nurse as my guy all the way. What he was able to do last year, and then the fact that he's capitalizing on that and even showing improvement with this team without Kawhi Leonard, it's just insane. And they just play basketball the right way. They just go out and they just dominate, and they don't do it in a dominant way. It's very, very interesting. They're a great team to watch, and I'm rooting for them in this playoffs. I think Nick Nurse is Coach of the Year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for me, it really comes down to Nick Nurse or Mike Budenholzer. I think they both coach a very good brand of basketball, and I think they're consistently great with their teams. And for me, what it came down to is, like you said, the degree of difficulty and the star power. Budenholzer obviously has Giannis, and Nick Nurse lost Kawhi. And Nick Nurse, for that reason, I think edges it out. And also, Nick Nurse, a very underrated aspect of his coaching is his player development. Pascal Siakam has gotten better both years under Nick Nurse considerably, to the point where Pascal Siakam is most likely going to make an All-NBA team this year. He might even make All-NBA second team, which is just incredible. And then that's not even considering guys like Fred VanVleet, Norm Powell, a whole bunch of these other guys on the Raptors that are having career years, and they've been progressing under Nick Nurse. So for me, it goes to Nick Nurse, and Budenholzer honorable and close second.
Philanthropist, when you're speaking, can you hold up the mic to your mouth?
Oh, yeah.
You're good. All right, cool.
Mic check.
You got anything to say about Coach of the Year, Mr. Winner?
I mean, I'm gonna say, just from your guys' opinion, it's probably gonna be Nick Nurse, but personally, I'm really pulling for Billy Donovan. I think what the Thunder did this year with, kind of being big underdogs, and I know they have very little percentage to make the postseason before the season started, and look, they're the 4 seed or the 5 seed right now? I know they're up there, so I think Billy Donovan definitely deserves to be in the conversation, but I think Nick Nurse will probably win.
I like that pick too because they've definitely played really well. So yeah, if it's not going to be Nick Nurse, I could see it definitely. I don't know. It's going to be hard because the Bucks, they have the best record in the league, so I could see it going to Budenholzer. But man, Billy Donovan's done a great job this season. So we got a great group of coaches. It'll be definitely an interesting award. And then we have one of my favorite players who's probably going to win this award, as he should. 6-man like Lou Will. It's going to be his award again. I know we got Montrezl Harrell right there who's on the same team as him, but I just don't know how you can see someone do it that well with the left hand and not give it to him.
Two girls, and they get along like I'm Lou. Yeah, I got Lou Will. I think he one of the best players in the league coming off the bench, period. Not just off of bench players, but just players in general. Consistently great. One of the biggest snubs of all time when it comes to all-star teams was him. I believe it was either 1 year ago or 2 years ago. There was an injury replacement. Lou Will was averaging 22 points per game and was not picked by Adam Silver. So not a good look for my guy Adam Silver here. But yes, I have Lou Will as my 6-man of the year once again. Honorable mention to Montrezl Harrell. I think there's really not even for me a close third after that. I think this should just easily go to Lou Will once again.
Yeah, Lou Will, 6-man every year in, year out. You know who deserves it. No questions asked.
Hall of Fame.
Stop it. You didn't say that. But then again, everybody in basketball makes the Hall of Fame. The NBA and basketball in general have one of the worst Hall of Fames in sports, but that's another topic for another day.
All right. For most improved, I have 2 candidates, in my opinion. That's going to be Bam Adebayo and Brandon Ingram. For me, though, it's going to go to Bam. And that's going to be – he's nasty, bro. The way he carries himself on the court, I think he just fits very well in with what the Heat are trying to accomplish. The energy that Jimmy Butler brings to the court. What he was able to do this season, I will admit I haven't seen too much Heat games, but from what I have seen from him, I have liked a lot, and I think he's going to be a great player for years to come. And I will say though, with Brandon Ingram, he has shown that he does that the potential that we swore that he had when he was on the Lakers. He's finally starting to show it. So I hope he can continue that trend. And I could also see it being where if he comes out firing with these 8 games and does really well with Zion, I could see it going to him. So I think it's a very close race. I like both players, but it's going to be really hard not to give it to Bam.
I disagree with you. I think Bam is great, but most improved, I mean, Bam is still just dunking and playing defense. He really hasn't expanded his game to the extent I've seen primarily Brandon Ingram and Jason Tatum. Brandon Ingram and Jason Tatum have both shown incredible improvement this year, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Jason Tatum. I think his improvement, specifically after the All-Star break, was incredible, and he's on his way to legitimately becoming a top 10 player. The way he was playing after the All-Star break was scary. If the Celtics can keep their core together and lock up and have Jason Tatum as that leading star with Kemba Walker in a support role, we're going to be seeing them in June for the next couple of years, especially with the way Tatum's playing.
I will say with Tatum, the reason why I haven't brought him up is because I already think very highly of him. So I guess seeing him play how well he was playing didn't really surprise me. I've liked him and thought he's been a great player ever since I've seen him dunk on LeBron. Like, that shit got me hyped up. And he did that as a rookie, right?
Yeah.
So I've always thought he's really good. So that's why I didn't put him. But I definitely agree he deserves to be in the conversation if you're just looking at how much he has improved, I guess. So I agree.
I'm going to also go with Bam just for the fact that I had never heard of Bam before this year, really. And I know this year he really balled out. And also, on top of that, the Heat are my super team coming out the East. So I kind of support everything they're doing. So I want to support Bam and give him my vote. I very much agree with Jordan about Jason Tatum. I've always kind of thought he was pretty good and had potential to be a top 10 player. So, it's hard for me to consider him most improved when I already thought he was pretty good. But Brandon Ingram, we have seen him really take on that number 1 role this year and, play really well with the Pelicans. Even if probably next year he's going to pass that number 1 role off to Zion, he played really well this year. So it's a tough call, but I'm going with Bam.
All right. I like that. Seems to be very close. It'll be interesting to see which way they go. And now, to get us to the very last one, the biggest award of them all, MVP. Now, who I believe should win MVP is Giannis. What he was able to do this year is absolutely incredible. Like we were just talking about, he has a really high chance to be Defensive Player of the Year. For him to be in the discussion for both, in my opinion, just makes him MVP in my book. And then I will say, too, what helps him in my eyes is he has the best record in the league. And then also he has less support than, say, LeBron James. The Lakers with AD.
Stop it. What did you just say?
I'm saying
what?
That the Lakers, Giannis doesn't have a player like AD on his team. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying
players 3 through 15.
I'm saying that could be a deciding factor, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I'll wait my turn. I apologize for interrupting.
And then you're talking about, because like I remember in years past where LeBron hasn't won it, and it's gone to the player who's leading the team with the best record. So I could see them following and continuing that trend with this. And like I said, it will be a deciding factor, definitely in some people's eyes, with Anthony Davis being on the Lakers rather than being on the Bucks. So that's all I'm going to say. I think, and like I said, Giannis really being in the top 2 spots for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year just makes him MVP in my book. So I'll let you go ahead.
So for me, it should be Giannis. It's probably going to be Giannis. But I think what we lose sight of with most valuable player a lot is that it means who is the most valuable player. And bottom line, the Bucks without Giannis would look a lot like the Raptors do without Kawhi. They'd still be a very good team. They're going to be very well coached. They're going to win 50 games, especially in the Eastern Conference. The Lakers without LeBron are not a good team. And to counter what you recently said about their teams, the Lakers outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis are not a good basketball team. Not at all. Their third best player is either Danny Green or Kyle Kuzma, neither of which are guys that you want as your third best player on your team. I don't feel the Lakers roster at all. I think they've been completely propped up by their two superstars. And to be honest with you, when they meet the Clippers in the playoffs, I think they're going to get waxed. I think it's going to be a 5-game series, gentleman's sweep, and I think the Lakers are going to be going home. So to me, what LeBron has done and what he did specifically at the end of the year, right before the quarantine started, I think he was really making it a conversation. I think if they were to continue the season then, we could have legitimately been talking about a two-man race. But like you said, Giannis has been out of this world. He's honestly been too good for his own good in the fact that the Bucks and him play so well that he doesn't usually have to play fourth quarters, which really hurts his numbers. It hurts his exposure to the media. He typically doesn't have like 40-point, 50-point games because of that, because his team is usually winning. But just eye test, on the court production, everything, he's clearly the best player in the league, and he is going to be a deserving winner of this again.
Back to back, right? If he gets it.
Yeah, it'll be back to back for him.
Yeah, I definitely think Giannis deserves it. Just all around, everything he does on the floor is just amazing. And I definitely think he's the best player in the NBA right now. And I think he's probably going to hold that down for many more years to come. So, yeah, definitely Giannis this year.
And I think Philanthropist is really forgetting the fact that the Bucks don't have Caruso.
Hey, my bad. You're right. Caruso's the deal breaker.
What do you think of the job that Frank Vogel has done?
I think it's better than expected, honestly. The Lakers have had a really strange season, man. They've really thrived with this old school version of basketball where they play 2, sometimes 3 big men. Dwight Howard and JaVale have been awesome for some reason, and it doesn't make any sense to me, like where basketball is, where it's been going. I don't get why it's worked so well. I think a big part of it has just been LeBron is such a good playmaker, and to be honest with you, so is Anthony Davis. I think the passing on that team is phenomenal. I read a stat that measured basically the efficiency of each team's shot taking. So obviously, the more 3-pointers and the more layups and dunks you shoot, the better you're going to be. The more mid-range or inefficient shots you take, you're going to score worse. So reading that off the top of my head, I thought the Houston Rockets would be number 1 because that's their whole brand of basketball, right? The Lakers were first place, and it wasn't even close. They were ahead of the second place team in this by a long, long margin. And I think that just goes to show that they're well coached and they have 2 good floor generals. So basically, they take corner threes and they take layups or dunks, which in this era is good basketball. So I think that contributes to what they've been doing as well.
Yeah, definitely. Are they doing lineups to where they have JaVale and Dwight and AD on the court at the same time?
It's usually 2 of those 3, but they've even had times where they'll run LeBron, they'll run a shooter or a wing, and then they'll run 3 bigs. It's happened. It doesn't happen that often, but it has happened this season at some points. Which you would not think that that's going to do anything good for the team, right? But somehow, some way, they're 2 center. I mean, part of it is because Anthony Davis refuses to play center, which is, in my opinion, stupid. I think that's his natural position. I don't know why he doesn't want to do that.
He stretches the floor very well.
Yeah, but you can do that as a center. I mean,
yes.
Source
true.
Number 1 would be Nikola Jokic or any other modern centers, but yeah, somehow, some way, it's been working, and I think Frank Vogel deserves credit. And I mean, also, people were sleeping on Frank Vogel. Like, he used to be a very, very good coach with the Pacers.
He was very good with the Pacers.
I don't understand why he came in with such a low reputation. I know he struggled in Orlando, but people were really disrespecting Frank Vogel's name. So I'm not too impressed with what he's done, but he does deserve credit because they're a very well-run team, and they're the number 1 seed, which is what's important to them.
Definitely. And I think what bothers me about AD not wanting to play center is I think if you're going to want to play on any team and be a center, it's going to be on LeBron's team.
Yeah.
So I don't get that. I think they would, if they could get, I guess Kyle Kuzma, you could play him at the 4. You could have a really good, like, I wouldn't even say small ball, but if you put AD at the 5 and you have that kind of lineup with LeBron at the 3,
yeah,
that's very good. So I don't know why he doesn't do that. Maybe we'll see it more this playoffs.
Yeah, Frank Vogel's been keeping, specifically Caruso, he's been keeping him close to chest. He even said in a few interviews that he's been his secret weapon this year. So come playoff time, I'm expecting a lot of Caruso, a lot of Danny Green, a lot of KCP, and a lot of Anthony Davis at center.
Do you expect prediction. A lot of JR?
I hope not. But yes, I could see it happening.
Do you think if you had to put money down that he makes one big mistake again, would you put down money, and how much would you put down?
God, it depends on his role. If he's playing 20 plus minutes, then actually I don't want to be too hard on JR. He made a mistake. He never really had like an on-court blunder like that before. It was more just like his off-the-court meme presence. Yeah, but that's still one of the worst things I've ever seen in a professional sport, is him forgetting to score like that. That's bird-brained. I don't know what to say about that. But no, I think JR.
I wouldn't have been mad if LeBron went Jordan and just punched him in the face.
I think he wanted to, man. I really think he was considering it. But no, I think JR is going to be on his best behavior. I think he's going to play like 10 to 12 minutes a game. Probably come out, shoot 4 threes, make 2. I think he'll be all right. He'll be a fine addition to the team. I definitely trust him over Waiters. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I think he was a good addition. I agree that people kind of hate on him a little bit too much. But I will say that if he is playing 20-plus minutes, then the Lakers are probably in trouble.
Definitely, yeah. Which they are, by the way. Losing Avery Bradley is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, that is a big loss. I've always liked him.
Yeah,
he's very good on both sides of the ball.
No question.
Does everything that he needs to be doing. All right. So there you go. That is our MVP talk, and now we are heading into the last couple of minutes of our show where we give out the hottest of all hot takes. We want to sizzle them cheeks. So I'll let you guys go ahead and go first. Give me some hot takes, man.
So my hot take for today, Patrick Mahomes, $500 million man. He's underpaid. Still underpaid. Only $140 million of it is guaranteed money. He's the best quarterback in the league. He looks like he could be the best quarterback of all time. I think the Chiefs should have given him 5 more years and $200 million more guaranteed. Period.
I think the deal could have been more. I do think it could have been more. Do I think it was enough? Yeah. I think it was enough. It's the biggest sports contract we've ever seen, and I think deservingly so. Dude is an absolute monster, and I agree. Eye test wise, he's the best quarterback I've ever seen play the game, hands down. And honestly, eye test wise, it's really not even close. He does things with the ball that I have seen nobody else in their entire career be able to do. He is like when we saw Aaron Rodgers and everybody was so amazed at everything Aaron Rodgers could do. He is like that. He is like that, but times 50. Like, he does it that much more frequently. He is just an amazing player. You can't ever count him or his team out of the game, no matter what the lead is. We could be up 21 with 3 minutes left. I'm not counting them out of the game. It's just, he's phenomenal.
Or yes, 2010 in the Super Bowl.
He could have been paid more. He could have been paid more. I don't think the deal is necessarily underpaid, but he could have been paid more, yes.
I want to say for everybody listening that both of these guys, I know it really hurts for them to say that.
I've seen it firsthand. 2 years now, he's taken my team out. 2 years. I just can't do it anymore. It's the most ridiculous stunt.
Yep. Yep.
I will say in regards to the contract that I think it's great for both sides. There's a lot of ways out if Mahomes doesn't want to be there after, let's say 5 years from now or something. And then also it gives enough money for the Chiefs to actually do something in the coming years. I wouldn't say maybe 2-3 years. It's going to be hard because that cap number is going to be very high. But who knows where that cap number is going to be, like cap space wise, how high it's going to get. I know the pandemic's going to hit that a little bit, but I just think that the NFL has been on an unstoppable just trend upwards with their growth, and I don't really see it stopping anytime soon. We have a lot of young stars coming into the league, so I think it's a great move for both sides.
I just need to say, why does Kirk Cousins get a 100% fully guaranteed deal, but Patrick Mahomes doesn't? I don't care that it's 10
3 years.
It's Patrick Mahomes. It's
You can't
Pat
do it
Mahomes.
10 years.
And it was
Why?
Mahomes
Why
got
not?
way more guaranteed money than Kirk Cousins got.
I don't care. He
Kirk
should get
Cousins
almost
got a
double
guaranteed,
money.
yeah, almost
Listen,
double.
We treat NFL players different because they're millionaires and because they're superstar celebrities, but would any of you in America show up to a job? Let's just say you're fresh out of college, you're getting a minimum wage job. Would you sign on to work a job where you get $15 per hour, but only $5 per hour of it is guaranteed? No, you would say that's un-American, that's wrong. No way you're signing up for that. So why does Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the world, have to sign up for a less than fully guaranteed deal? I think it's an exploitation of the labor in the NFL. I really do. I think it's stupid. I think when they come to the bargaining table for the next CBA, they need to put their foot down and say no more non-guaranteed deals. I'm playing football. My career could be taken away from me at any second. I need fully guaranteed money. I really think they should do that. But that's my hot take for the day.
Okay, I mess with that. That's a good hot take. I would agree, though, that in some ways that he is underpaid. Definitely deserves more money. He's going to be bringing a lot of money to the NFL in the next coming years.
Lord knows.
I'll go ahead and just give my hot take. I believe that the AFC South is going to come down to the last game again, and I believe that the Texans and Titans will be finishing both 10-6 and up.
Oh.
I know that's going to be very hard for you guys to say that with the Texans, but that's going to be my hot take. And I think the Colts will be good, but I don't think they're quite ready just yet. They're still going to need a new quarterback under center, in my opinion. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic. I just really don't want to see it. It feels like every year it's a Week 17 game against the Titans and the Texans for the AFC South. Can someone just lock it up in Week 14, please? Somebody? I don't care who. Just, I'm tired of the AFC South. I really am.
And Deshaun Watson will be an MVP candidate, if not the MVP.
But he's certainly good enough to do that.
I mean, I think whatever record the Texans get, they've been carried there by Deshaun Watson, and only by Deshaun Watson. There's
Don't
nobody
sleep on
else.
Cootie, bro.
There's nobody else contributing on the team anymore. David Johnson is hot trash.
What happened to Cutie, bro?
Chill out. He's like the number 5 receiver.
He's cool, bro.
Randall Cobb has not been good for like 3 years. Kenny Stills was only good because of DeAndre Hopkins. Same thing with Will Fuller. I have no trust in their receivers. I have no trust in their offensive line. And Laramie Tunsil's 65 false starts in 16 games. I just have no trust in this team whatsoever. They're the worst coach team in the division, and that says a lot when you have the Jags in the division. I don't even know who the Jags coach is right now, but I know it's better than Bill O'Brien. I know they fired Doug Marrone and Gus Bradley. I think that was their last 2 coaches, both better than Bill O'Brien. I mean, to me, it just comes down to that. This goes into my hot take 100%, and my hot take for this week is I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars will finish the season with a better record than the Texans. I solidly believe, or the same record. They will both go 6-10.
I'm not with that.
That's my hot take for the week.
Everybody in the division finish over 6-10. 6-10 and over. You're seeing everybody in the division.
Yeah.
Well, they all got to play each other, and they all suck. So
Exactly.
that's not.
They're all gonna go 2-2 in the division, or whatever it is. They're gonna go 3-3 in the division. No problem. We might see the Titans go 4-2, and the Colts go 4-2, and then the Texans and the Jags go 2-4 in the division. But the division is so shit. Every game's gonna be a toss-up.
I'm not with that, Ethan, because at the end of the day, the Jaguars are going to have to go and beat a team that has Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and I don't think they can do that twice.
That's fair.
Period, point blank. So I think that's going to be the equalizer. I think the Texans could finish third. I think they're going to be probably 6-10, 7-9. Jags will be 5-11 or something. But I mess with your energy. I think the Texans suck. I don't know where Goose is coming from with this.
Yeah, after you get DeAndre Hopkins out of there, you got to understand how much that takes out of that offense.
Yeah, no, that's huge.
Dude, that's 1,600 yards each of the last 3-4 seasons.
I understand.
And there's nobody there to fill that void. You're really going to tell me that Randall Cobb is going to fill that void?
I just really believe in Deshaun Watson. That's all I'm saying. He's something special.
Wow.
I'm just getting very frustrated with how you continue to slander someone like Josh Allen and the Bills, but you are out here pumping up the Jaguars.
Me?
No. Young E.
Who slanders Josh Allen and the Bills?
Oh, that's you, Phil. I'm tripping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never
mind. I'm mixing you guys up. But I'm mad.
I'll take Gardner Minshew over Josh Allen.
The Jaguars, bro,
Ooh.
They are going to be picking first overall, and you can't tell me any different.
No.
Who is then?
I just disagree.
The Dolphins.
The Jaguars are going to have a top 3 pick.
Nah. I'm going to tell you, probably top 3. I don't know, bro. There's a lot of bad teams in the NFL.
Wait. So
Chargers are definitely going to be up there for that number 1 pick this year.
So Ethan,
they are definitely going to be pushing for it.
The Jaguars will have a top 3 pick, but the Texans will be worse. Is that what you're saying?
Potentially.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Texans get the number 1 pick. Deshaun Watson walks. They get Trevor Lawrence. Hey, it's protected too, right? Because the Dolphins have their first rounder this year. Is it top 5 protected?
Texans.
No, they only got the 1 year.
No, they got both years. They got this last year and this next draft.
Do they even have pick protections in football?
No, I don't think they do.
Oh, I thought they did. So if the Texans get the number 1 pick this year, then it's the Dolphins. So there we go. Back to Phil's original prediction that the Dolphins are going to have the number 1 pick this year. There we go. Trolling. It's just going to be trolling. In this roundabout way.
Who would you want?
Trevor it's going to be the Bills. Trevor Lawrence. What?
I mean, it depends on, we don't know. It's going to be a weird year, though, too, because I don't think we're going to see college football. So we're not really going to see anybody that's going to pop out from last year where we, I'll point to Patrick Queen, who the Ravens drafted in the first round. Dude had never started a game before this year. And then comes out and is a first-round pick at the end of the year. We're not going to have any of that this year because I don't think we're going to see college football.
That might honestly be good for Trevor Lawrence, though, because I don't think Trevor Lawrence could do anything except fall from number 1 overall at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Who do you see him going to, though?
The worst team in the league. The only way I see a team not drafting Trevor Lawrence number 1 is if it's the Texans because they already have Deshaun Watson. That's literally the only way I could see that happening.
I could see potentially the Bengals having the number 1 pick again.
I could too. I was going to say the Bengals are up there for the number 1 pick, and I could see them passing on Lawrence.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, would you take Lawrence over Burrow?
Young E, is there another player in the draft that, let's say it is someone like the Bengals and they already have Burrow? Is there somebody else they could pick? Is there somebody that highly coveted?
I don't know this year. I actually haven't been into the 2021 draft yet. I haven't really seen any mock drafts. Like I said, it's going to be hard to judge without the college football season being here. It's kind of going to be a guessing game and, see who pans out. And we're going to see, the real scouts and the real GMs really come out and show who's top tier in the NFL and who's Bill O'Brien.
Do you think that this upcoming draft has the potential to have the most draft busts in history?
Yep, and I think all 6 of the Texans' picks will be busts. If Bill O'Brien is still the GM by draft night, every pick will be a bust.
This next draft, I bet you the Packers take a wide receiver in the first round. And it'll be a bust.
Yeah, no question.
All right, guys. I think we'll end it right there. Good conversation today. We went over 2 hours. It is saying right here 2 hours on the clock, but we had our clip from earlier. So good run here. I think we should really consider doing twice a week, and then maybe we could cut that down to maybe doing 1 hour every show.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So we'll figure that out. And if you're really watching all the way this far, over 2 hours into this podcast, I would just want to kiss you on the mouth because I appreciate that so much. I don't know why you would, because philanthropist is just shit. But
the Josh Allen opinions are just
Hey, if you're with me with the Josh Allen hate, please comment. We can link up and talk about how much we hate him together.
I really want to get a good fan base going so we can start answering questions from people. That would be really fun.
Oh, the Bills fans are going to be so mad at me, bro, if that happens.
I know, huh?
Bills Mafia is going to be coming for me.
Hey, that's some crazy ass fucking fans, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, thank you guys for listening. This is the Couch Sports Talk podcast. I'm Goozy Juice. I'm here with Young E, the winner. I'm here with Philanthropist, the philosopher. And again, thank you for listening and join us. I don't know what we're going to do for the schedule, but we'll talk about it and we'll get there when it gets there. And you guys have a good night.